Hi there, this is Sandra from the Schwowin's Nest. Welcome to my Holly Jolly Christmas series. This first project is using an existing wood crate that I made over for the fall and just adding some Christmas trees to the other side. I want this crate to work double duty. I'm taking a makeup sponge and some white chalk paint, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint on these Christmas trees. I'll have the link to the video where I made over the crate itself down in my description box. Next, I'm just going to make the trunks black, and I'm just going to use my paintbrush with some black chalk paint and just pounce it in. To make the trees look a little bit more distressed, I'm just taking some sandpaper and I'm going to go lightly across them and just bring out some of the wood color underneath. My second project is using this soup and sandwich platter set. They have some cute little designs in them. Originally it was navy blue, but I took it outside and gave it a few coats of matte white spray paint. Now I'm going to do a buffalo check pattern on the tray itself. The first thing I do is just lay out one piece of tape, and then that small piece is just going to be used as a spacer. So I'll be putting another piece of tape right up against that. Then I'll remove the spacer and move it to the next section, and I'm going to repeat those steps all the way across the tray. Next, I'm going to paint the white stripes that are not masked off in the color black. Now, normally you would start with your lightest color first, which is the base coat of white, and then you would go to gray for this step, and then you would do 2 coats of black. I did this a little differently and it still worked out, but I had to think about it a little bit. So if you're interested in learning how to do the proper way to do a buffalo check pattern, I will link my tutorial video that I did last year down in my description box. Around the edges of the plate, I just followed the arc of it and filled in where I needed to. Here I'm just removing the painter's tape and then I'll set it aside to dry. There's a couple spots where it bled through, but I'm not going to worry about that now because the next layer of paint will probably cover it up. While the paint is drying on the tray, I'm going to start working on the cup. So there was a little bit of a thumbprint mark there where I touched it when I spray painted it. So I'm going to go ahead and take my black chalk paint and just paint the handle black. On this soup cup, there's some really nice little dots, so I've decided to just use the end of a paintbrush and some of my red chalk paint and just follow the pattern and just draw little red dots on it. It ends up turning out super sweet. I wanted to give the cup sort of an enamel look, so I'm taking a makeup sponge and the red paint and I'm just going all the way around the rim. The next step of the buffalo check is to do the same pattern with the tape going in the opposite direction of the first one. So now I'm going horizontally across and I'm using my spacer again. The next color I will use is a medium gray. This is also a chalk paint, and I'm just going to fill it all in. You go over the white as well as the black squares. For the next painting, I'm going to be leaving those painter's tape on, and I'm going to go on top of it again in the same way I did it the last time, but this time I'm going to be covering up the black instead of the white. So again, I'll use the spacer and just get all of my tape put down. All the gray squares will get painted black. And here comes the reveal. It's always the best part. So that's my buffalo check. I can see a couple of mistakes, a couple of bleeders that I'm going to have to fix, but all in all, I think it turned out pretty sweet. The plate has the same dots all around the edges as the cup did, so I'm going to do the same technique with the back end of my paintbrush and just dab on the dots. For a final touch, I'm taking a fine point detail brush and I'm going to just use the red paint and draw a border line in between the buffalo check and the white. So I'm just going to do it really fine. It's not going to be perfect, but it's just going to add that extra touch. Once everything's dry, I give it one coat of matte Mod Podge. This last project is probably my favorite because I'm so into farmhouse rustic with simple lines and colors. I got this little box for $1.50 at the thrift store, and because it has a little bit of a shine to it, I'm just taking some coarse grit sandpaper and roughing it up to get some of that shine gone. I'm going to start out by giving this one coat of black chalk paint, and I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. The first is I don't want any of the color or the stain to bleed through, and I'm going to be painting this white. So if I just go with the white paint on top, there might be some of the varnish coming through and it might end up turning my paint yellow. I don't want that to happen. Secondly, when I go to distress this piece, I'll have some black showing through as well as some of the wood. So it gives it a little bit more texture and color, and it just looks really rustic. I'm going to give it 2 coats of white chalk paint, and you can see here with the black I've gone down the inside partially because I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be putting in this yet, so I just don't want to be able to see any of the wood inside. Now it's time to distress. I'm going to use some coarse grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to use it very gently because I want to bring out some of that black paint and some of the wood. If I go too rough on it, it's going to go right down to the bare wood right away, and then I won't be able to see any of the black. I've decided to distress the panels as well, and instead of using sandpaper, I'm using a screwdriver. The reason I'm doing this is when I use sandpaper to get down as far as I want to get down, I end up scratching a lot of the paint around the area as well, because chalk paint is fairly thick, and when you do 2 coats of it, it takes a while for you to sand down to that either bare wood or just that first layer of paint, which would be the black. So this is something that I do every once in a while, and I like the look of it. I thought it would look really neat on this project. Now I'm just taking my pencil and I'm going to write out the lettering that I want to have on here. It's going to say "Oh Christmas Tree," and I'm just doing it freehand because these are really tiny letters and I just don't want to be bothered with stencils at this point. I'm using my Fine Point Craft Smart paint pen, and I'm just going to go over the letters and draw them in. For the word Christmas, I'm going to do a capitalized font, and it's going to be freehand again, kind of redone-ish, but not really. And when I do this, I like to start at the end of the word. So I'm going to start with the S and work my way back, so I make sure that I have enough space for all of my letters. I also went over the letters one more time to make them a little bit thicker. I added some white dry brushing onto the letters to distress them a little bit more. So I finally decided what I was going to put in here, and of course you probably figured that out because I put down the words "Oh Christmas Tree." So what I'm doing now is measuring the dimensions of the hole in the box. I need to be able to put something in there that's going to prop up the Christmas tree that I'm putting in there. So this is a leftover piece of sign from the Dollar Tree. This was a pumpkin. And I'm just going to use that to mark off the dimensions of the piece of wood that I need for the very top. I've traced it out, and I'm just using my utility knife to score the cardboard or the wood or the press board, whatever this stuff is called. And then I'll be able to snap it and clean it up. Right now, I don't seem to have any fluorofoam or styrofoam, and I don't want to fill up this wood box with all sorts of stuff like rocks or anything. It's just going to be too heavy. So I decided to just cut out my own little cardboard box that I'm going to glue together that will fit right inside the wood box. This has just the right dimensions, and I'll be able to put the piece of wood right on top of this cardboard box. But first I've got to attach it to the tree. I found this little stump in my stash and I thought that would be the perfect trunk for this tree. I just need to drill a hole in it so I'll have somewhere to stick the tree. After the holidays last year, there was a ton of clearance stuff, and I found this huge bottle brush tree for, I think it was around $5 at Pier 1. So I went ahead and grabbed this one, and I thought it would be the perfect size for this wooden box. I'm just adding some hot glue and then pushing the wire right into the stump. I'm also drilling a hole into that little piece of wood that's going to be on top of the box. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to put a screw in from the bottom and screw that into the bottom of the wood stump so everything stays together. So I just took a screw and attached everything together. Putting some hot glue to the bottom of the little cardboard box, I'm going to glue that down into the wood box. Then adding some hot glue onto the cardboard box, I'll be able to push the wood part of the tree right inside. To finish this whole tree and box off and make it look more high-end and professional, I'm just going to glue in some moss. I hope you enjoyed my thrift store flips for Christmas. If you did, I'd love for you to stick around a while. Hit that subscribe button. Those 2 black arrows will show you exactly where to click. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. See you in the next one.